Danny Weissing, real estate, all kinds of stuff. Venture capitalist.
Tommy Gunn. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no
really
problem, man.
it.
Sourcing, you do all kinds of stuff, not just real estate.
Yeah, man. It's been a fun ride. I was just trying to figure it out the best I could, and it's worked out pretty well.
And what's insane is you've dealt with people in Palm Beach Island, and we're going to pull that up, Jupiter, which you think is the next big thing, but you started with no connections.
Oh yeah. I started doing rentals. I came home from school on a summer. I got my real estate license. Believe it or not, the reason why is I watched the show $1 Million Listing New York, right? And there's these young guys and they're having so much fun and making so much money. And I was like, I'm going to get my real estate license and just, see if it's something that I'm interested in. At that age, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I didn't know if I wanted to go to law school or whatever it was. And I saw these young guys making all this money and I was like, I think I can do that. So I started doing these rentals and, I just started to make some pretty good money and just worked my way up from there. And, I saw a lot of guys that I know and that are friends with slaving away in an office. And, that wasn't for me.
And what year did you start Pull-Up Out Tab 2?
I believe I got my license in the beginning of 2015. But don't quote me on that. It could have been the middle of the year, but I know it was 2015.
So, Danny, scroll through these, Rob. And then some of these, like top 10, keep going. Like with that Prince Harry, keep going down. 122 million.
There's some big boys on that island.
Keep going down. How much was that one? 109 million.
Yeah, it's Palm Beach is like this little enclave.
105.
And it's wild because if you go over that bridge into West Palm Beach and you turn right on North Flagler and you make a left, you are in a very, very dicey area.
And see, I don't think everybody understands how expensive Palm Beach Island is, like 99 million.
I'll put it to you this way.
Now go to the next one. It's Beverly Hills.
I did a rental on Palm Beach Island one time. And it was this tiny little, like imagine like a little cottage that like an old grandma would live in. It was, I believe it was 892 square feet. And these people paid $60,000 per month to live there. Granted, it was during the season, but people will do anything to be on that island during the season. It's the who's who. The Palm Beach Gala is coming up. I believe it's on April 16th. I look, Palm Beach is great, but I wouldn't pay those prices. If I had that money, I would take a ride up to Jupiter and get a walkout dock and
go to the next tab. And this is Jupiter. Now you think this is going to be the next, say, Beverly Hills, Palm Beach Island. Scroll down on that one. I think that one was like 37 million. Now, is that the same price it would have been pre-COVID?
Oh no, pre-COVID in 2019 was kind of right before everything just absolutely hit the fan. They made interest rates, the lowest, probably, one of the lowest times in history. So money is so cheap to borrow. So there's just so many more people buying that of course it's going to drive the prices through the roof. It's the same number of houses, but now everyone has a lot more money. Right. It's pretty simple. In regards to Jupiter's the best, man, in my opinion. A lot of Palm Beachers are diehard Palm Beach. I'm diehard Jupiter. It's the inlet connects to the river, to the Loxahatchee River. I mean, the water is crystal clear, light blue. Look, I'm a boater, so I spend all my weekends out on the water. So, for a boater, it's like heaven. It really is.
And you've been boating since you were like 9. How did you incorporate that within your real estate?
I've found the people in Jupiter are really, really like-minded to me. I don't know how to explain it. When I was working more down south, it was like I didn't mesh with those people. It's like a different customer up there. So when I moved to Jupiter, I started making all these friends and becoming close to my clients. I'm going right after this. I'm meeting Dr. Marshall Sohn. Shout out. I'm meeting him for dinner. You know, my clients become my friends. I don't know. I think we're like-minded in that way.
And we were talking before, sometimes you'll take him out, and Tiger Woods he said he has like 90,000 cameras outside of his
I
house.
bet he does.
Yeah, so Tiger Woods' house, you would think it's this, you know, big, it's something to look at, but the guy has, you know, it's got to be 25-foot high hedges, and there's, you know, cameras everywhere, and he has 2 wave runners and an old sport fish boat. You know, there's literally nothing to see. It's a boat and a concrete wall that kind of bends around, and that's it. But look, the guy likes his privacy.
And
know?
Jordan, you said you see Jordan out there fishing.
Yeah,
all him
all
fishing's
the
his
time.
new
Catch
thing
23,
now, right?
right? Catch 23.
Catch 23. Yeah, it's got like it has like it has a really interesting design, almost like a lizard design, kind of on the side. He's always out there fishing. He has a whole team. You know, you look at the back of the boat, there's 12 guys on the back.
Yeah. And that's his new thing to bet on probably constantly.
I have no idea. You know, I don't know any of these guys. But, you know, we briefly spoke about that. I see Jordan out there fishing all the time.
Now, what did you do different than other people that you worked your way up to dealing with people like from Delta to gazillionaires?
Yeah, so
and you're young and everything else.
Yeah, the longtime VP of Delta Airlines. You know, there's a bunch of people that I've worked with, but you know, there's a lot of simple things, man. You'll call people, and you know, it's like pulling hair just to get them to call you back. You know, you call me, I'm answering the phone, and if I don't answer, I'm calling you right back. You know, it's like you're calling these people, and it's almost like ring, ring. I'm trying to give you money. Are you going to answer the phone? And it's such a disservice to these people that are selling their property. Can you imagine? You know, some guy, you know, there's an all cash buyer trying to come give you money, and you know, your lazy agent won't answer the phone. It's like mind blowing to me. I can't believe it. But look, there's a lot of other things that I do to separate myself. You know, there's some things that I can go into. There's some things that I can't. You know, I had one guy that wanted to buy a property, and he, you know, for some circumstances, it could not be known that he was the buyer. So we bought it under a different LLC that has no connection to him, and then the contract had an assignability clause, meaning that I can immediately flip that contract to a new buyer. This is just, you know, I'm on the spot here. I can't think of all the different things that we do, but we get really, really, really creative with it.
But I mean, what really separated you that at your age, you're selling these kind of houses?
I would say die-hard work ethic. You know, one thing that I think I've kind of been known for kind of underground is, you know, there's people looking for waterfront property in Jupiter, and there's only so many. There's really not that many waterfront houses. And, you know, I have a buyer right now who's looking between 5 to 8 million. And, you know, right now I think in that price range, there's between 12 to 15 houses. You know, I know every one of them, and so do my buyers. So, you know, I will hit the market and I will contact these sellers directly, and we'll do a totally off-market deal that no one ever heard of. You never saw it listed. You never did anything. You know, that was, you know, I don't know if we had the video, but that was on 8 Country Club Circle. You know, my client was a CEO relocating from Manhasset, New York. You know, he couldn't find anything. He came in contact with me. I literally found him that house in 3 weeks, and we closed, you know, I believe it was 45 days later we closed. And then his wife was so happy because they had been looking with all these agents and they can't find anything. But look, if you come to me, I'm going to find it. I'm going to find it.
It's that simple.
Yeah. I mean, it's not that simple for other people because, you know, it takes a lot of work. You know, it just really takes a lot of work. But, you know, I'm going to find it.
Now, when did you start to see the boom? Where not where everybody else saw it, where you as a real estate agent and a bunch of other things that you do that we'll get into, when did you start to see things getting crazy?
Right about 2020.
Right then?
Yeah, right about 2020, it kind of took a trajectory where I was like, whoa, this could be really big, you know, straight up.
Now, you had said before when we were talking, before we got started, that you thought by now, what do they call when it blows up, like the real estate market, when everything goes to hell? Crashes, right?
Bubble.
You had thought it would have crashed by now.
Yeah, when this market started to go through the roof and they made interest rates next to nothing, I was like, it's got to, I'm kind of in a way a bit of a doomsdayer. I was like, I was sitting there saying it's got to be coming, but then, the administration at the time, it was Trump, they set up this program to give out so much free money that it just propped it up. It kept it, so it just kept it going. All that money that they were giving out just propped it up and propped it up and propped it up. I think we're finally at the point where it can't keep going.
And now what do you look at for this crash happen? Do you look at the GDP? Do you look at the interest rate? This episode is brought to you by Let's Get Checked. Are you the man your father was? Recent studies have shown that men's testosterone levels have dropped substantially since the 1980s at about an average of 1% per year. Think about how old your father was when he was born. For example, if he was 30, your testosterone levels could be 30% lower than his. Low testosterone levels can have all type of health effects on men. It can affect your mood, sex drive, memory, muscle mass loss, you name it. And yes, low testosterone is more common the older you get, but it can affect men at any age. So let's talk about today's sponsor, Let's Get Checked. You can order a testing kit that will be delivered to you in a discreet packaging with next-day delivery. Once your sample arrives in the laboratory, confidential results will be available from your secure online account within 2 to 5 days. So, if you want to test your hormone levels without having to leave your home, visit trylgc.com/MSCS Media and get 25% off your test using the code MSCS Media. The link is in the description at the top. This episode is sponsored by ZBiotics. What is ZBiotics Pre-Alcohol Probiotic? The ZBiotics Pre-Alcohol Probiotic is a genetically engineered probiotic you drink before drinking alcohol to avoid that rough next morning and get back to living your life. PhD scientists invented it because they know the real problem is not dehydration. It's a toxic byproduct of alcohol, and ZBiotics Pre-Alcohol Probiotic is the only product that breaks it down. Just remember to drink responsibly and plenty of rest too. Every time I have ZBiotics before drinking, I'm amazed at how good I feel the next day. ZBiotics is a must-have for me because it means I'm still going to make my daily workout even if I have a few drinks the night before. That's important to me. You can get ZBiotics for 15% off your first order using my code MSCS Media at checkout. I recommend getting the 6-pack. That's what I got. It's a great deal. You have a couple extra to share with friends. Go to zbiotics.com/MSCS Media. That's Z as in zebra, biotics, BIOTICS.com/MSCS Media, or scan the QR code on the screen right now and get 15% off your first order. You will not be sorry. Link is in the description below.
Obviously the interest rate is such a big factor.
And explain that to everybody. Like when the interest rate, what is it, like 7% now? Like what
Yeah.
does that mean overall to everyone?
Yeah, so it means, say you're going to buy $1 million property. Say your payment was going to be $6,000 a month. There's X amount that goes toward the principal of the loan, directly to the loan, and then there's the money that you just owe to the bank for them giving you that cash. And now it's so significantly higher, that people are going to be looking, the bank's going to offer them a mortgage and they're going to be like, oh my God, look at how much money I'm paying just to borrow the money. I call it cheaper money. When interest rates are low, it's cheaper to borrow. And when they're high, it's just so much more expensive. So in this market right now, cash is king. You could get a really, really, really good deal. You can get really good deals with cash right now.
Because nobody wants to pay that interest rate, right?
Yeah, no one wants to pay the interest rate, and if they're willing to, they're gonna want such a deep discount.
Now I don't really know what happened because it didn't really affect me. But compare how 2000, because that's what everybody says, 2008. So compare 2008 to now, from what you know. So what were the signs in 2008 and then the crash happened versus the signs now and it hasn't crashed yet?
Yeah. So just to be clear, I was in high school in 2000.
I know, but I know you studied all this shit. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah. So, I'm no economist, but I like to think that I do know a thing or two about it. In 2008 was irresponsible lending. They would give anyone a loan. and that's what propped up the market then. And this time around, I mean, it was anyone. They would give anyone 2 or 3 mortgages, and that's bad debt. It's just toxic, and it's going to go down sooner or later. That's what happened in 2008. This time around, my opinion is that it was all the SBA loans and the Employee Retention Act, I believe it was, where they're just, showering money on every business owner all over the country. I mean, I knew a guy who owned a small gym down in South Florida. I don't think he ever made any real money, and he applied for an SBA loan, and they gave him a $250,000 check.
Jesus.
And it's like, wait, you give, there's only the same amount of services and goods out there. You give everyone so much money, and now all that money is chasing those same goods and services. Of course, it's going to drive the price up. And also you mix that with such low interest rates. That's what skyrocketed those prices up just so high that no one, I never thought I'd see it go that high. Going back to, of course, real estate always has a gradual rise, but we saw it more than double.
Yeah.
From, I think it was 2015, it doubled in value. I had a friend who bought a property on Palm Beach Island for, it was 2.3, and he had multiple offers for 8.
Oh shit.
It was just out of control. So I thought it would have happened. I thought the crash would have happened much earlier, but
Now, what do you think? Now, how do you think this will end? Because it has to pop, right? It can't just. This isn't just going to fizzle out.
Yeah, I think, and I could be wrong here, man. There's a lot of scary things going on with the banks. Silicon Valley Bank just dried up. There's bigger banks buying smaller banks. There's a lot of kind of uncertainty out there, but I think there's going to be about a 15% price correction. So you're going to see $1 million trade for 15% less than $1 million, and
like worse than '08 type.
No.
Same?
No.
What do you think, Rob? You think it's going to be that bad?
Yeah, no, I think what he said was the banks in 2008, like some guy working a $30,000 job got like $1 million loan, and you're like, how the fuck is this guy going to pay it back? And it crashed. And
the answer is he's not going to.
He's not going to pay it back,
and they all know it.
And I think you have a lot of people now. I mean, I don't know. You could probably speak for it better, but coming in with cash and coming from foreign countries, even. I mean, Chinese buyers. I mean, I've heard Russian buyers. I've heard all different stories.
Yeah, there's a lot of Chinese investment. There's a neighborhood called Alton in Jupiter, and I believe there's the Chinese nationals owned probably 60% of that neighborhood, and they own it as investments. To me, personally, I found that to be a little bit concerning. Who won it? They just have free reign to buy up all the property. But then again, there's these, whichever administration it is can come in and just swoop down and do whatever they want. Did you hear about the California mansion tax?
No.
Okay, so if you list a mansion in California and you sell it past, I believe it's April 30th of this year, you have to pay a 5% tax off the top of the sale, and it goes directly toward the homeless problem in LA.
Oh, jeez.
So
yeah, right. I'm sure it does.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Look, I'm all about helping the homeless, but you take these guys who have done their numbers, they know how much they're into this, they know how much they can spend, they know how much they can put into the kitchen and everything else that they need to do to make their money back. And then, you have some Yahoo on the administration swoop in and say, oh, hey, by the way, you're going to give me an extra 5.
Yeah.
It's like, California is the most, I can't imagine anyone who's in business or anyone who actually has money wanting to be in that state. It's like the most anti-pro business state I've ever seen.
What I think they do is they get a place there so that they're in LA or whatever, but then their main residence
is in
Vegas.
Florida.
No, Florida, Vegas, whatever's close, so they're not getting destroyed.
Yeah, a lot of them are in Florida, so they can claim Florida.
That's why it took me an hour to get here today, because all the people from California, New York, Pennsylvania, they're all here. So
I saw them flooding in.
yeah.
You know, during the pandemic, it was crazy. California, I saw a lot of from Utah, actually. Utah, New York, New Jersey, and California. Those were the top 4 that I saw. But, you know, I'll be clear. I met some great people that moved here, and I'm happy to have them. And I'm happy to have their business.
I'm sure you are. And speaking of which, we had Charlie Kirkin, and I bring this up because that happened. 08 happened with Obama. I personally think that Obama is Biden's puppet master. Is that who you thought? Who'd you think?
We said Soros.
You think Soros? No, I think it's Obama. But
Yeah, you know, Biden, no doubt. You know, he constantly asked for his endorsement. He asked for him to come to every single thing, and Obama's kind of like,
he's like,
you know, I don't know this, but you know, my inclination is you're not me, buddy, and you're never gonna be me. So just kind of, you know, I'll take you if I have to, but only if I have to.
And we talked about it this morning, but what did you think did you think that they were going to actually indict Trump?
I didn't. Alvin Braggs is he's a small local DA. I never imagined that this guy would have the gall to do something like that. And I'll tell you what, you can't put that type of whiskey back in the bottle. This is, you know, I think it's such a scary thing. And, you know, while some people across the aisle, you know, on the Democratic side of the aisle, while they're sitting there saying, yeah, get him, they're scared too. Because, you know, if you know, unless you're, you know, a saint, if they comb through your life with a fine tooth comb, who isn't going to get in trouble? Right?
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. You have a kid, the guy's a billionaire. You know, he has money flying in every single direction. Who can keep such close monitoring on every single payment that's made? You know, that's what his lawyers are for. And his lawyers and his CPAs do their thing.
Now, do you think he'll get out of it? I mean, they're hell-bent on getting him. Did you think he was going to get indicted, Rob?
No,
I didn't think he was either.
I've never seen a more harassed man on the planet than Donald Trump. I don't think that they're going to get him. But here's the thing. No one, not me, not you, none of us have seen the indictment. None of us have read the indictment. So, you know, from everything I hear, you know, if it's they're getting him on a misdemeanor. It's statute of limitation to out. You know, it's past the time that they could even charge him with that. But they're trying to trump it up to a felony. You know, I think Alvin Braggs, long story short, I think Alvin Braggs is going down in flames.
Do you really?
I think that guy just signed his own death certificate to his career. I think he's done. You know, I think Trump's going to come out of this victorious. You know, he raised since the indictment came out, they raised, I think it's just under $6 million.
Yeah, I think I saw that right before I came in. I think it was at 11.
11.
Yeah, I think it was
Wow.
at 11.
I might be behind
it's
on
in the
that.
wrong state. That's the only problem. New York.
Yeah, they got him in New York. That's
Yeah,
not
well,
good.
you know, the court can they could ask to have it moved to a more fair place because you know, it's such a left-leaning place. Who knows if he can get a fair trial over there?
Or anywhere for that matter. The amount of money.
This
and power
podcast
that
went
they have.
political really quick.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's just I like to get other people's opinion on it. You know
I like
what
it too, man. I like it too. And I used to be more of a moderate, but you know, as the time has gone on, I'm just, you know, leaning more and more right.
Now, these gazillionaires that you deal with, you don't have to name names, but are they more right, left, in the middle? They don't talk about it. They won't say anything.
I'll give you one guess.
I would assume right.
They're all right.
All of them are.
Taxes, baby.
Taxes, yeah.
They're all right. You know, I have one client. I would never name any names about anyone's political affiliation, but I have one client who's more of a moderate, and I found it to be really, really surprising. And I also think his wife kind of pushes him into it.
Yeah.
So, yes, right. That's the answer.
Conservative, huh? So now when you got your real estate license, you had basically a mentor, right, who had 40 years of experience, or you were with an agency.
Yeah, so I was with a real estate brokerage, and I was working as a transaction coordinator.
What the hell's that?
I was just processing all these deals, all the paperwork, and I got sick of that really fast. But over that amount of time, I saw, you know, so many contracts, and I saw where they could go wrong, and I saw, you know, these little loops that you can get at. You know, for example, say you're in a rental, and you know, you're obviously locked in that rental unless you have a liquidated damages clause, right? That's on page 7 of any Florida standard lease. You can buy out. And people don't know that. You know, they think they're locked in for 12 months. And that might be a stupid example. But, you know, they just don't know. So, you know, once I get on the phone with these people and I'm like, no, well, you could actually exercise your clause on page 7 and we can go buy you a house right now. You know, there's things that they just don't know. So,
Well, nobody reads the fine print with everything.
No.
of course, I don't think there's any way you could know unless you were me and handling all these contracts so closely.
And then you expand from there. And what do? You get into like a research chemical funding, wholesale lending?
Yeah,
right?
so that
was
not so
interesting.
much. You know, so from there I started to get into, you know, I basically opened a venture capital division.
And what's venture capital?
So venture capital is basically the seed money to help a small business that's trying to blow up. We'll give them the seed money to grow. You know, and that will be on certain terms, like, you know, we're going to give you X amount and our job will be, you know, our capital that we're going to give you is going to go toward funding purchase orders and ads, and we're going to allocate those funds toward XXX. You know, it's really detailed and laid out. And then I also went the route of, you know, like I was telling you before, I had this one client, you know, she had about $2.9 million in stocks that she was collecting dividends on. She had a perfect credit score, and this woman went to the bank to get a mortgage and they told her no. And I was just so confused by that. And I was like, wait, that can't be.
Why would they tell her no?
Because she, you know, she doesn't draw the, you know, the typical, I'm a firefighter and my paycheck is guaranteed per month, you know? So they're looking at her. I don't know what exactly their process is, but I'm sure they're looking at her like, well, the stock market could take a hit and then you can't pay.
Oh, because she was basing what she had in the.
She didn't work.
I see.
She didn't
So
work.
Her funds were tied up in stocks, so they were
Exactly.
hesitant to give it to her because she didn't have liquid.
Right. So she would collect dividend checks, and I'm like, you know, this woman has a perfect credit score. She's obviously responsible. She obviously pays her bills. There has to be other outlets, and it's kind of hard to get your hands on money. So I partnered with a bigger venture capital firm because obviously I can't fund all these mortgages personally. You know, and I showed them some of the numbers on these certain people, and they were happy to do it. Happy to do it.
And no problem.
No problem at all.
And then how'd you get, this is what I thought was really cool. How'd you get into this architectural part of it where, correct me if I'm wrong, they would come to you and say, hey, Danny, you know, we want to build such and such. Where do you suggest we build it?
Yeah. So
Take me all the way through that because that's interesting to me. And it's like privately, right? Like
sure.
you-
So that
bidding
kind of
and all that
sounds
shit.
probably a little more special than it is.
Well,
So-
it sounded pretty cool.
Yeah. So basically,
Wish you could edit it.
you know, I've had some guys approach me and say, you know, they're just developers and they want to build a big, beautiful waterfront property and they're looking for a site to do it. So just like, you know, like I told you with those other people, they're having such a hard time finding a waterfront home, but then they find me and not all this stuff is glamorous, right? I had, like I said, the one client that I worked with that came from Manhasset, I literally called every owner on the waterfront of Jupiter personally. You know, I would research these people. I would call them on their cell phone and say, you know, I'm a really good salesman. So it doesn't sound like like
Like a sales call.
a weird individual is calling you. You know, it sounds like, hey, this guy might have a really good opportunity. And lo and behold, you know, I found this one property. You know, they at first, you know, they're kind of, who are you type of thing. And, you know, it becomes really clear really fast that, yes, I'm real. Yes, my buyer's real. Yes, he's paying cash. And this can be a really, really good opportunity for you. And, you know, we closed 45 days later. So when it comes to the development, you know, these guys will come to me and they're just looking for a great opportunity. And, you know, I would locate that site and, you know, we'd go under contract. I'm happy to be the broker and get paid on it. And they're happy to have a phenomenal building site, you know, and a lot of those deals no one ever heard about. I can't tell. Look, I'm under contract right now for the biggest deal I've ever done on Palm Beach Island. No one will ever hear about it. The only way that you'll ever know is if you look on the Palm Beach property appraiser. You won't know who the broker is. You won't know anything about it, you know.
But don't they? I thought they had to. That doesn't
What's
have
that?
to be public record.
Well, yeah, it's on the Palm Beach property appraiser site. So you'll see the recorded sale. And a lot of times, you know, that isn't even correct. And let me tell you why. So a really good way that some buyers, and this is all perfectly legal, a really good way that you could save money on taxes in perpetuity forever is, say you go into this property and they're asking $3 million, right? You write the contract, you offer them $2.5 million for the house, but I'm going to give you $500,000 for your furniture and for your boat lift in the backyard and for your window treatments and for your AC units and the swing set in the back. I really like that. My kids love that, right? So we bake that in as a personal property addendum, and we cut them a check for $500,000 directly, and then we record the sale price as 2.5.
I see.
So, really that sale was 3 million, but it's recorded as 2.5. So when they go to tax you, you can't tax them on a furniture sale.
And is that where what I've seen with you is reducing the customer acquisition? These big frickin' words with this shit.
That's a tough word, Tommy.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
No.
Reducing customer acquisition of
I
places
think
like
you were reading my website. That's more on the venture debt side. But I'll in regard to this, look, these guys love when you can save them money. I'll give you another story. So you just have to take it as it's thrown at you sometimes. There's no set way where I'm going to get you the best deal, right? So I was in this deal and this woman told me, after we're already under contract, she says, we're actually under contract on a new home. And if anything goes wrong with that deal, we're in big trouble. Ding, 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 ding. Why would you tell me that? We haven't closed yet.
Yeah.
Right. So, I conduct myself with integrity, right? But, if my client wants to go for more money in what we call a credit or, in a credit toward repairs or whatever it was, the deal wasn't closed. We were still in the inspection period. So ding, 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 the light's going off. Now I can really ask you for a lot of money. And you just told me that I can. I'm not trying to take advantage of anyone, but in that particular situation, my client really wanted to get a big discount. So unfortunately, I had to get him that big discount.
Tell us a story with one of these big ones or even smaller ones that you had to get through yourself that was just a nightmare. It was like just a nightmare of a situation you were in and you had to work through it.
Oh, man.
I'm sure there's a handful.
By far the worst deal I've ever done.
Pull up his website a while.
I would never name any names. There was this couple, and it was a couple of trust fund kids, and they just had no idea what they were talking about, and they would say all these absurd comments to me, like, this one time, this woman was yelling at me to give the plumber the escrow number. Just because, it wasn't her fault. She just didn't know what she was talking about. And I think she was doing her best. But I'm just sitting there saying, why would I give the plumber your banking information with the title company? So that particular deal was the worst of all time. But, that's very few and far between. I usually find a way to be really, really respectful and come out at the end being great friends with everyone I do business with. I'm going to dinner right after this with Dr. Marshall Stone. He's the director of pediatric surgery at Jupiter Medical. Great friend, consistently, see him on a regular basis. He calls me for questions pertaining to real estate. I'm friends with all my clients. They just end up being really, really good friends.
Well, everybody and their mother wants to be a real estate agent or they're going to be a real estate agent. And then I hear all these stories that everybody made, $200,000 this month. The place I used to go to, the dentist, the dental hygienist, whatever, somehow she made $200,000 last month.
Really?
Now, I don't know. I mean, I didn't check her bank account, but that's what you hear. Like, everybody's in real estate. I'm going to do this. Do you think this is the time to get into it? If somebody's thinking about it, would you recommend it, or would you be like, look, this ain't...
Look, I'm not going to steer anyone away from real estate. Give it a shot. You might be successful, but I'll tell you what, I've seen hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people try to get their real estate license. They get into it, and 9 months later, they're working somewhere else. you know, or a lot of people will have a real estate license. It's a great thing to have, you know, if you want to do your own transaction. But then again, the other side will probably get one over on you because you won't know what you're doing. You know, I did a deal with, this guy brought in a lawyer, and he wasn't a real estate lawyer. You know, I know a lot of great real estate lawyers who know exactly what they're doing, but this particular lawyer, I think he was a personal injury lawyer who had no idea what he's doing. and she brought him in, and she thought he was going to, you know, kind of take over or, you know, something along those lines. Man, I kicked his butt. Really, really badly.
All right, Danny, let's play the video of this listing we were talking about earlier from your website.
Let's see it.
That's a drone, right?
My name's Daniel Weissing, and welcome to 8 Country Club Circle, Tequesta, Florida. I sold this property for $3.2 million directly out of my buyer network without ever having to list it. I have the buyers, I have the expertise, and I am laser focused on these transactions. Call me today.
Now, how'd you sell that without having to? That's very firm there, buddy. How did you?
It's always a little cringeworthy seeing yourself on tape.
Of course.
You know, but look, you got to shoot your shot.
Now, how did you sell that without having to list it? You're not talking about $100,000 property. You made the calls?
Yeah.
What?
Okay. So that particular buyer was coming from Manhasset, New York. They had been looking for months. They couldn't find anything. You know, they locked in a relationship with me. I said, look, I will not do this type of work unless we have something, you know, set in stone that I'm your guy. But we did because they were confident. And I believe it took me about 11 days. I believe it or not, I hunted these people down. I called the wife. I called the woman who owns this property at her place of work. The secretary answered the phone and said, you know, I said, I'm looking for such and such. I don't think I can name drop. I said, I'm looking for such and such. Can I speak to her? I literally took her time out of her work day and, you know, straight to the point. This is what I'm looking for. She says, let me have my husband call you. The husband called me, you know, we hung up the phone. He took a little while to digest it. A week later, my client flew down. And I believe about 20 days later, we were under contract.
Boom, done.
You can find him. You can find him.
Persistence and just calling, man. I mean, got to keep calling and calling and calling sometimes, right? And
yeah,
get a lot of no's,
and,
right?
You know, now it's gotten to a point where I know so many people. You know, I know so many builders. I know so many people that are my personal friends that live waterfront. You know, like I said, almost every weekend I'm out on the boat. You know, I'm driving right past these houses and talking to these people and, you know, seeing them at the sandbar. And, you know, I'll get some text messages that say, hey, you know, before I do anything with my house, I just wanted to tell you that this is now an opportunity. I'm thinking about selling, you know, and that's when we'll do it. It'll never hit the market. Cash deal, done.
I want to ask you, I'm more about real estate, but that reminds me of the boating accident. Tell me about that thing. This is crazy.
Oh, God.
He's like a big-time boater guy with this boat. It's crazy and funny, too. Kind of, I guess, to me.
It wasn't funny for me. Yeah. So, just to be clear, I've never had any type of accident happen like this. This was a one-off. You know, my first boat was, I think it was a 12-foot green Carolina skiff with a tiller motor. You know, the motors that you go like this with, and turn the handle to give
like
it
a
gas.
motorcycle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I was zipping around that. I think I have a picture of it on my phone if you guys want to see. But okay, so I believe this was in the middle of June of 2022. I believe I was supposed to go out fishing I go fishing by myself all the time. I love it. I absolutely love going out there by myself. My sound system in my boat is much better than my car. So I'll be out in the ocean, I mean, all the way up with the music that I love and just jamming out. But okay, so I think I had a friend coming with me, Reed Armour, great commercial real estate broker in Stewart, by the way. Shout out Reed. I think he was supposed to come. I might be wrong though. And he bailed last second. So I got up, I believe it was a Wednesday morning, and I was going out trolling. The day before I had just had, all my rods relined at fishing headquarters in Jupiter. And, I was so excited to get out there. And I go out there, I'm trolling, and, I'm kind of getting no bites for the first 2.5 hours. So I think I went out there before sunrise, and right about, I think it was about 10:15 in the morning, both rods at once, zzz, they both zinged, fish on both. So I go to the back left of the boat and I start reeling in this one fish, and it seemed a little bit light. And then on the other rod over here, I see this big dolphin jump. And, screw this fish. I'm going to this side. So I switch to the right side of the boat, and I'm reeling. And I'm out there alone. Usually when you're out fishing, you'll kind of guide the fish along the side of the boat, and then you'll have a second guy gaff the fish. But I'm out there alone. And, I have this fish almost to the back of the boat. So kind of my only option here, I could hold the rod and then gaff it with the other hand. But I was like, okay, I'm just going to hoist this fish out of the water and into the back of the boat. And on the back of the boat, there's a bench seat, and it has a back that comes up like this. And then beyond that, you'll have the back platform and then the two engines. So there's a back platform, and I go to hoist it up, and the fish starts shaking. You know how they shake trying to get the hook out? And it shakes the hook out. So it spits the hook out, and it drops down onto the back platform, and it's flopping. And this is a really good fish. And I remember my uncle had just moved out of the Keys, and I really wanted to bring him fish. He loves mahi. So I really wanted to bring him that fish, and I really wanted to take a picture with the fish.
Social media,
let's be honest.
Got you killed.
It was such a good fish. So it's flopping around, and I lean over the back of the seat, and I lose my footing, and I slide in, and I'm in about 1,200 feet of water. I think that would equate to about 15 miles offshore, right? And it's a weekday. The reason why I go out in weekdays is because no one's out there, and it's so peaceful. That's my thing. I love it. I love the outdoors. And, I slip into the water, and I'm just overcome with absolute terror. I look back, and all I see is the two engines just coasting away from me.
Your boat's going the other way.
My boat is leaving me. And I'm 15 miles offshore, and there's no other boats around. I am out there, right? Sheer terror comes over me, and I start to try to swim after the boat, but I'm fully clothed. I'm in a long sleeve dry fit. I'm in long pants, and then Vans. I had Vans on. And so I'm not going anywhere when I'm swimming. So I immediately kick all my clothes off until I'm stark naked. And then I try to swim again, but I realized very, very quickly, there is no way I'm catching this boat. It's gone. So in this moment, I think I'm toast. I'm dead.
Jesus.
And I'm thinking I'll be off by the time, if they ever find me, I'll be off the coast of Delaware, with the Gulf Stream current ripping me. So, I'm thinking, and then I realized that other little fish that I had left was still out, right? So I swim as fast as I can over to that line, and I grab it, and I start wrapping myself in it, because
in fishing wire, the plastic fishing wire that rips you to shreds.
It's braid. It's fishing braid. So I wrap myself around it because I don't want to lose my hand grip. So I'm like, okay, I'll probably lose my hand grip, but at least it'll still be wrapped around me. Or, I don't know what's going to happen back here. I just want to be, at least they'll find me, right? And so then I start to try to pull myself up this braid, and I could feel the clicking of I'm drawing the braid off the reel. It's called the drag. The drag will come out, and I'm feeling that I'm taking this out. So this isn't working. So, okay, maybe now I can, what's going through my mind is maybe I can drag until I see another boat, and then they'll see me. So, you know, I'm basically just hanging back there, you know, trying to rack my brain for some, you know,
Miracle to happen.
some way out of this situation, because I'm dead. I mean, the chances of coming back from this are, you know, and by the way, while I'm dragging, I could still feel the drag coming out. You know, I'm 200 pounds and I'm 6'3". You know, that's a big fish.
Yeah.
And you know, the drag is coming off the reel, and I feel it clicking, and I see the boat getting further and further away from me. So, you know, I think I'm back there for about an hour, and what I start to try to do is kind of lean myself like this and kind of try to turn the boat. So I'm leaning, and I'm starting to get some progress here. You know, 15, 20 minutes, starting to get a little more progress. And now I'm like, okay, the boat's turning. Then I get it turned to where, okay, now it's turning, and then I put all my weight and yank this thing and turn it from its back. So now the boat has turned sideways. I'm back here, but now it's still going away from me. But, you know, the boat has turned. So my only chance, you know, is to basically meet it on its new trajectory where it's going, right? So I start to try to take off swimming, and I'm wrapped in braid. And this stuff is not easy to untangle. And by the way, my hands are, you know, the braid has ripped through my hands at this point. It's ripped through my forearms. I have photos on my phone. You know, so now I start to kick frantically. I'm trying to get this braid off me. And so I finally get this braid off me, and I take off toward where the boat's going, because if I try to swim toward the boat, obviously, you know, I'm never going to catch it. So I try to swim to where it's coming to, and believe it or not, I beat it to its new trajectory. So look, so many things had to go right. Remember how I said I had the rod relined yesterday? That was fresh braid, and it was like 600 yards.
Wow.
If that had been 300 yards, I'm
Forget
toast.
it. You're not
if
here
that
right
was
now.
old line, I'm toast. I mean, and there's many more things that had to go just right for me to be sitting here with you today. I mean, you know, it's absolutely incredible. So I take off to meet the boat on its new trajectory. I beat it there, and by the time I get there, I am gassed. I am just like, you know, I'm not going to breathe that hard into the microphone, but I was about to drown.
Well, you're full of adrenaline. That's probably the only thing that kept you going. I mean, you're out there for an hour.
No
plus
doubt.
Pulling,
And
getting cut the fuck up.
Was it like rough or sunny? What was it?
It was actually flat.
flat.
Yeah,
but still hot as shit. Sun beating down on you.
Yeah, those things, you know, and people would ask me when I tell people about this situation, you know, they would, you know, everyone's just captivated by this story, and they would ask about sharks. I didn't think about that one time. That is, when you're out there, it's the last thing that you're thinking about. Sun, last thing you're thinking about, right? Didn't even cross my mind. But so I meet it on its new trajectory, and I'm so gassed I'm about to drown. And, you know, I'm looking at the boat, it's coming straight toward me, and I'm like, okay, what am I going to do here? Am I, you know, on the front of the boat where it kind of curves up, there's a loop, and then there's the anchor that comes off the front, and then there's the ladder in the back. So should I try to swim next to it and then grab onto the ladder as it's passing me? What do I do here? So, you know, I decide I'm going to leap out of the water and grab the anchor. So the boat's coming directly over top of me. It's going to run me over. I leap out of the water and I grab onto this anchor with one hand, two hands, and I'm, you know, it's dragging me over the ocean, you know, kind of going like this. It wasn't rough, but the boat's, you know, bobbing and doing its thing. And I'm just trying to catch my breath. And I'm, you know, I'm about to die. I'm so gassed, but thank God I got this boat, right? On the front where the boat curves up, there's this little loop where you would connect a trailer line to
Wheel yourself in?
No, to wheel it up onto a trailer. There's this little loop. And then I kick my feet up. I get my two big toes in on this loop. And then I kick myself up. I get an elbow over the bow of the boat, get another elbow, and I get myself in back into this boat. You know, gassed is like an understatement. I was laying in the front of the boat, just like trying to comprehend what just happened, trying to catch my breath. And, you know, finally I kind of collect myself and I don't have any clothes. Right. And I have to go back in, and boy, did I want to go back in.
Now, how far are you away from getting back to land?
I think by this time I'm probably 25 miles offshore.
And you're butt naked, cut up.
Butt naked, bleeding from my back. You know, I had wrapped the braid underneath my torso.
Ugh.
You know, up underneath myself. There were cuts down there. There were cuts across my back, on my hips. My hands were the worst. My hands were, you know, it was down to the bone.
So you were out of commission for a little bit after this.
You know, believe it or not, I was back in the game fast. I think I went fishing like a week and a half later.
How you know, you always hear this question, like, when you're in the moment, you're not like counting time, like 10 minutes went by, 20 minutes went by, but how long did it feel? Like, did it feel like an eternity? Did it feel like 10 minutes? What did it feel?
It felt like just, you know, the adrenaline. Have you ever been in a fist fight?
Yeah.
You know, the adrenaline that you're in,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
just, it's like trying to count the time. Like, how long was that fight? Like, you're just kind of out of it, and you're just, you know, the adrenaline's pumping.
Yeah.
And there's actually more to this story. So
Jesus.
I'm naked on the boat, and I need to cover myself up. So I go underneath the cabin, and you know those square cushions for a boat, and they have 2 loops on each side. That's all that I have. So I take my dive knife and I cut it out. I cut out the styrofoam, pull out the styrofoam, and I wrap the loops around my waist and tie it in a knot. And then I pin that boat, man. I'm running back to shore. I mean, that thing's skipping across the water. I'm like, I'm going in. And, you know, I come across this it was a white Everglades. It had twin white Yamahas, and I pull up next to him. I don't know how he knew something was wrong, but he was yelling, "What's wrong?"
Can you turn that off or put it on vibrate?
Sorry.
Well, maybe because you had a cover over yourself and you were bleeding, he might have noticed.
Yeah,
something was
but
wrong.
as I was pulling up, yeah.
This podcast is brought to you by Monster Energy. Tear into a can of the meanest energy drink on the planet, Monster Energy. It's the ideal combo of the right ingredients in the right proportion to deliver a big bad buzz that only Monster can. Monster packs a powerful punch, has a smooth, easy drinking flavor. Athletes, musicians, co-eds, road warriors, metalheads, geeks, hipsters, and bikers dig it. You will too. Monster Energy is more than just the green OG. Monster has Monster Ultra, Juice Monster, Monster Hydro, Rehab Monster, Dragon Tea, Monster Max, Muscle Monster, and many more. Buy on Amazon, buy on Walmart, or go to monsterenergy.com and believe me, you'll find a place. Unleash the beast. Monster Energy.
I mean, he just knew. Maybe it's because of how fast I was coming toward his boat. And I said, "Hey, man, I hate to ask you, but can I have some clothes?" And he says, "I don't have any clothes." And he looks at me, he sees me bleeding, and he's like, "You know what? takes off his shirt, throws me his shirt, takes off his shorts, then takes off his drawers, puts his shorts back on, and then throws me his underwear. So I'm desperate times call for desperate measures. I put this guy's underwear and his shirt on, and then I take off back into my marina. And
you're known at your marina, right? They know you pretty well.
Yeah, they know
right?
me.
So what do they think when you're jumping
Come
off
in
there,
with
nut
underwear.
huggers and
blood all over the place.
I covered myself the best I can, and I covered myself to the point where they were like, I mean, I don't know if he was just dazed, like just kind of out of it or whatever, but he just started to try to make small talk, and I'm like, listen, man, I gotta go. I'll be back later. I just left all my gear on the boat, and I just took off, and I called my mother when I got home. I collected myself, and then I called my mother.
What did she say?
Oh man, she was taken back. I called one other friend. I think I called my friend Reed, and
where were you, asshole?
Yeah, where were you?
That was died, pal.
Yeah. Everyone I tell that story to is just totally captivated. I told the owner of the bait shop. He said he's been there for like 30 odd years or whatever it was. He said he's never heard anything like that before.
Now, when something like that happens,
I'm not proud of it.
Well, you survived, so I would brag about it. I mean, I would be telling everybody, hey,
That's a good story.
You didn't kill me.
That's a good drinking story.
Yeah, yeah. Now, when you go back to work, then after something traumatic like that happens, do you have a different outlook? Because you almost died, or you just kind of snap back to, all right, back to work, back to same old shit.
Man, I snapped back. I don't think there's any measurable differences, after that. I haven't even really thought about that. That's an interesting question. But there is a sense of like, kind of what can hurt me,
Yeah.
I kind of been through it.
Because some people, they would never go on a boat again. They would have like almost a post-traumatic stress syndrome type of thing.
Not with me at all. You hear about some surfers that get bitten by a shark. Like me, I've been boating my entire life, so I know that was such a slim chance accident. It was such like such a random thing that happened to where I still feel safe on a boat. I don't feel unsafe. I know exactly what I'm doing out there. Despite this crazy story, I do know exactly what I'm doing out there, and I know that I'm fine. It's like surfers, they'll get bit by a shark, and they're surfing a week later, and people think they're crazy. It's like, no, I still feel comfortable out here, and I know that it was just a really, really, random accident.
Now, back into the real estate. I know what a hard loan is, obviously, right? I mean, everybody knows what that is. But what is a bridge loan? Do you know what that is?
I've heard of it. I don't know exactly what it means.
So I actually don't deal in bridge loans. I haven't seen that many times. I have seen, a bunch of different margin loans where clients will, they have a lot of holdings in the market, and they'll go to the bank and they'll say, look, I have, X amount invested with you. I need a line of credit against my investment holdings that I have with you. How much will you give me? I've seen that. I haven't seen too many bridge loans. I've dealt with every other loan you can think of, FHA, VA, a bunch of different conventional jumbo loans. My favorite are cash. No loan is my favorite.
Yeah, right. Well, obviously, right? 'Cause there's nothing to worry about with that. Now, being that you're dealing with these bigger numbers and these banks, you had mentioned the Silicon Valley bullshit.
Yeah, well, that was just on the news. It was just
Yeah.
all over the news because it crashed.
What's your take on all this? Do you think they're purposely doing this? Like what do you think's behind it? Nothing to me after all this. Nothing is whatever is on the news to me is what they want you to believe.
Right.
So therefore, to me, there's way more to it than it just crashed. Or why are they saying that this crashed?
Yeah, like I said, I'm no economist, but my take on this whole thing is, the pandemic hit, and they were just, you might as well take a helicopter and just throw out free cash all over the United States. I mean, they were giving everyone money. To the viewers who are watching this, you're probably sitting there watching this like, yeah, I got a check too, because they gave everyone money, everyone.
Okay.
So, it's way more money in circulation in the system, chasing the same amount of goods and services. It's literally the definition of inflation. So, you have this problem. There's some of the smaller. I believe what happened with that bank was some of the bigger banks are really, really heavily regulated, and they're stress tested by the overseers. And some of the littler banks get away and don't have the same strenuous regulation and oversight and stress tests on their system. And I'll tell you exactly what did it. When they yanked up interest rates, that's what hurt them. When they yanked up interest rates, it's like, whoa, I wasn't expecting that, and that's what collapsed that bank.
And you think that's why it happened? There wasn't any inside job set up, something like that. I guess you would say conspiracy, but
nothing that I would know about.
I don't think it's fucking.
I wish
conspiracy.
I did. I wish I did have that type of information.
Yeah.
Nothing that I would know about necessarily.
We don't have it up, but talk about Tucker Carlson, because I thought that was interesting. He was on somebody's podcast, and it was like a totally different side of him.
Oh yeah. I did not think that we were going to be talking about this on the podcast, but I'll tell you.
I just find it interesting.
I'm happy to continue the conversation. Yeah, I was watching the Full Send podcast in Key West. I believe he was on vacation there. And, I don't know if he was drinking or whatever, but, it was just interesting to see a totally different side of him on that podcast. He was popping a Zyn in. You know what Zyn is?
The fake chew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like nicotine pouches. He popped those in, and he was talking about, he was introduced to it by a young guy that his daughter was dating. And, he was talking about, I pay taxes because I have to, not because I want to. And, all these interesting things. And, a lot of men are sitting at home thinking these things. We just don't say it. I'm definitely like that myself. I believe you are too, Tommy.
Yeah.
It's just interesting to see that side of him. He's really, I think he's a cool guy.
I mean, how much longer do you think they'll keep him? I mean, you've been in the news with Fox and all them. I mean, because he's going against the grain. Now, they got to be telling him, hey, look, sway in this direction a little bit.
As long as the ratings are good and the money's coming in, boy, you'll be there for a while.
Yeah, and you know what you notice with him? He doesn't ever go against, like, Big Pharma or anything like that who's paying the bills anyway.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that watch him and Sean Hannity and all those guys religiously. Like, right now it's 7:38. At 8 o'clock, I can call my mom and I'll say, I don't need to ask because I know where she is. I know that she's sitting in her living room. I know that she's watching Tucker Carlson.
Yeah.
And at 9 p.m., I know she's watching Sean Hannity. I just know because, that's what they watch. And they're really, really interested in it. Not, as long as the guy has the ratings, right?
Yeah.
And even sometimes a guy like that, like I compare it to, Stephen A. Smith from ESPN.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, some people hate him, right? Oh, my God. But they watch him because they hate him. So you may even have the same thing where people may hate him because he's that good. That's a good thing. That they're still watching him even though they hate him. So the ratings are just crazy.
Sure.
I mean,
and what's the trend now? You have all these weird things going on. What's the trend now in real estate? Versus what it was, say, 2 years ago. Like, what trend do you see happening?
In what aspect? Are you talking about prices or?
Not really prices. I guess what people are looking for, like the clientele is weird. Is more because they've divided everything. Everything's divided. So you're a white guy, right? Do you see a division like that in the real estate part of the world?
No, I don't. And even if there was, I am definitely not allowed to partake in it. When you're licensed in real estate, there's something called steering.
Well, I mean toward you. Like, are people treating you any different now than they did 2 years ago?
I've never noticed it, and I can tell you right now, maybe I did notice it when I was living in a different area, but I could tell you in Jupiter, it really is the truth. I like that area so much because I just feel comfortable with that area. I like the community there. The community likes me. I get along with the clientele up there. I don't know. I don't know what the stark difference is between, I used to live a lot more south between that little move, but I see that there's a big difference in the community. It's much better, in my opinion.
And then when you grow so fast like you did, you know, you have no connections at all. And then
None.
you're doing all kinds of different stuff to get where you are. And now you're dealing with high-end people. How do you have, and you're busy, and you're making 1,000 calls, like you said, so they just answer the phone pretty much. How do you maintain or have a relationship when you're doing all that? Because, like, when we had Pat in, like, you know, Pat had said, before I got married, we went to a marriage counselor. And he's like, you know, sat down, blah, blah, blah. Said to the marriage counselor, how long have you been married, sir? He said, 30 years.
Wow.
Pat said, what's the most important thing, you know, about you being married for 30 years? And the marriage counselor says, oh, we have dinner every night at 6. Pat reaches over, gives him the $200, and he says, thank you, sir, for your time. He gets back in the car with his soon-to-be wife. His wife's like, what'd I do wrong? What'd I do wrong? And he said, honey, if you ever think I'm going to be home at 6, you have the wrong guy. I'm trying to take over the world. I will never be home at 6 p.m.
Very true.
You know what I mean? So in regards to you growing so fast, dealing with high-end people that you know, you better take their call, you
Of
know,
course.
and then finding the high-end people that are going to call one time, and if you don't call, they're going to move on.
Yeah.
How do you maintain and how do you have a relationship? And then even furthermore, they see you around the Delta guy. They see you around whoever you can't name, okay? How do you know that they're not just around you for the parties you're going to get invited to, or because you sold this house from the island, or you sold this house in Jupiter, or whatever?
Yeah. Well, if they're around me for that reason, I don't care as long as I'm having a good time. Right? But in regard to keeping up with these certain guys that I work with, look.
I mean, like a girl.
Oh, are you like
if you're trying to have a girlfriend, like a real relationship, you know, but you're working 20 hours a day some days, and you're not going to be home for dinner, and you're not going to have breakfast, you know, at Benny's on the beach.
Well, look, I'm a single man, so maybe that tells you something right there. You know,
it's not working.
It's not. First of all, it's not working. Second of all, it's just not something that I'm thinking about right now. You know, I date a pretty good amount. You know, I go on a lot of dates, and you know, very quickly, it'll turn to this was fun, but I'm never gonna see you again.
Yeah.
You know, just clearly, you know, that might have a lot to do with, you know, my ex-girlfriend, you know, really, really awesome, beautiful person. So, you know, there's big shoes to fill in that regard. Right. But look, there's a lot of yachts on the ocean.
Rob, what do you think of that? Huh?
You know, there's a lot of yachts on the ocean.
A lot of fish in the sea.
I'll find a different yacht. It's something I'm not even focused on it right now. But I could tell you, I'll probably be interested in a woman that has her own life and her own friends. You know, the only way that I'm gonna be getting into something serious is if, you know, some girl just knocks me on my, you know, behind, and I'm like, man, I really like this one.
Yeah.
Because anything other than that is just, you know, I just don't have it in me to fake it. Like I said, I've gone on a lot of one and done dates, and you know, just never talked to them again because it's just not there.
When you're dealing with kids that get what do you call it when they get the treasury thing, when they get the money?
A trust fund kid?
Trust fund, yeah.
baby.
And they come to you and they want to buy a house. Like you name one, like, you know, are they tough? Are they the toughest type? What's the toughest type to deal
Tommy.
with in this?
I'll tell you what. I almost have PTSD from trust fund kids. You know, there's just such a delusional aspect to these individuals because they don't know how to do it on their own. So, you know, for example, I did one deal, and, you know, he got over on the other party. So he thinks he's winning in business. That's not business, Tommy. Business is you're tough, but you work out a really good deal for you, but you're also ethical and, you know, keep your respect and integrity while doing it. And, you know, he was under the impression that, hey, I'm getting over on this person. I won. You know, look at me. Give me a round of applause. That's not it. You know, you walked away from that looking like, you know, someone that, you know, you just don't want to be around.
So is that the toughest type to deal with that you've had to deal with?
In my experience, I don't have a prejudice against trust fund kids. Right? I will work just as hard for you as I will anyone else. But I have found that them to be just, totally delusional and just really, really, really difficult to work with, and almost have a vicious aspect because, there's just nothing they do is ever going to tell them that they're wrong because they're just have the safety net. So, I didn't have a good experience with it, but I'm open in the future to working with more.
I mean, I look at it like all the celebrities, that get so rich so young, and it's just too much too quick. Now, in your case, they just have money and they think, hey, look, I own the world, give it to me. But in the same aspect, they're messed up too because, they end up resorting to drugs or something crazy. Or
Did you hear about Shaq's kids?
No.
So Shaq told his kids, kind of funny. His one son, I think he has two boys. Don't quote me on that either. One plays
I think he has
basketball.
two too. I saw a video of him dancing.
Yeah, because
in the
one
kitchen.
had the heart problem.
Yeah, he said they were saying about something. He says, I told my kids, I go, you're not rich, I'm rich. And I was like, what? And he's like, I'm rich. You didn't earn any of that money. You will earn that money. And that's a good way to raise them up,
Yeah.
Yeah. I could tell you every self-made man that I've ever dealt with have become some of my best friends. And, I find that they really have, and sometimes I'm like, whoa, why are you so loyal toward me? Because I think that they see me scratching and clawing my way up. And, they it's kind of like looking in the mirror to them 20 years ago or 30 years ago or whatever it is.
When they were working to get where they're at now.
Yeah.
We always talk about this. Now, Rob thinks Montana, right, is the GOAT.
Oh, don't say
I bring this up for
we have to ask him first.
I already know.
Who's
Yeah,
Montana?
who do you think is the GOAT in football? The best quarterback ever?
Tom Brady.
Yeah, see, finally you agree with me.
Look,
we have somebody that agrees with
keep
me.
in mind, guys, I'm an outdoorsman and I watch the X Games. I wakeboard. I ride motocross. These are the type of things that I do. I barely watch football. So I'm probably not the guy to ask, but I'll tell you what, I did read Tom Brady's book, The TB12 Method.
Yeah, so I wanted to bring that up.
Because
did you read that book?
No.
clearly there is something that guy is doing that's working, right? And, I thought, there's got to be something in here that's gonna benefit me to read. And
What did you find in there that you go by and you use and apply to your life?
well, there's
I mean, the guy didn't age. He also
Yeah,
didn't
man.
get hit a lot until the end.
he really kills it. But
Still didn't think he was going to retire.
basically the main aspect of that book was how he keeps himself in such tip-top shape. There was a lot about what he eats, how he trains. He's, massively huge on water. His water intake, he preaches purified water as opposed to spring water, never tap water.
He says drink purified water and not spring water?
Correct. He says drink purified water with added electrolytes.
Wow.
He actually has an electrolyte line that he'll sell. Granted, it tastes absolutely terrible. I bought it because I was gonna use it, but I believe the reason why is because it's so low in sugar. Like you look at, can I drop company names?
Yeah.
So you'll look at Liquid IV, and in that little pouch they have, I believe it's 11 grams of sugar. In TB12 it was 1.
Oh, wow.
So obviously there's going to be a big taste difference, right? But his, he went on and on and on. His thing is pliability. So he'll do resistance training with bands. He's not big on weights. He will do some, but he's really big on bands because he doesn't want impact on the joint. And then he'll have his trainer, this is how I really read the book. His trainer's name is Alex, and he'll deep tissue massage down, every day, really, really deep all over his body to where he can take these really harsh impacts. And, he's primarily plant-based. He has a private chef. He's constantly getting ton of electrolytes in his water. He basically preached all of these things to keep his body in tip-top shape.
I still can't believe that purified water over spring water.
That's one thing, though. I mean, that's my downfall, man. I hardly drink water. I know it's good.
It's so bad for you, Rob.
No, I don't. I can't. I get the big bottle that says it'll tell you at 1 o'clock drink this too. Like literally.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
in my car.
I've seen those.
Dude, I'll go out to the car now. It's still at 11 o'clock. I'm like, fuck. I don't know what it is, but I know it's good for you.
I drink so much water. It's incredible. Oh, you're not going to like this, Tommy.
What?
He is so against caffeine.
Really?
You know what his caffeine intake is?
You're going to say 0.
Zero caffeine. He's really, really against it. Can the audience
meanwhile,
see
I
the
got
monsters?
fucking monsters galore.
This podcast brought to you by Monster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Fiji water, though.
Yeah.
Is that spring water?
Yeah, spring. Well, it's all Fiji rocks or
Great
whatever.
company, of course.
But still, I'm still stuck on that purified water.
That's what he
Why?
said.
Yeah.
Purified water with added electrolytes. I'm drinking alkaline water, and I have electrolytes in my truck.
Yeah. And what's alkaline water again?
Alkaline is
That's supposed to
just
fill you up
alkaline is the pH level between 8 or higher. So when you go down the pH scale as it goes green, yellow, and red, it becomes acidic. And it
Just remember the good water we had up in Philly and
Yeah.
up north. It had like calcium in it. We probably had all different crazy shit.
Are you being
It was
sarcastic?
good.
No,
It was good.
No, really.
Oh, really?
If you would put like probably a pool test in one of those things, you would probably think it came right out of a swimming pool.
Yeah.
I mean, it was horrible.
Oh, so you are being sarcastic.
No, I'm being serious.
Serious.
Yeah.
Like if you would get a glass of water out of a thing in Philadelphia and you put a pool stick in it, it would probably all light up as if you did your pool perfect.
Terrible.
It was that crazy. So give us like one or two of the worst things about being a real estate agent and then the best.
Man, the worst thing, probably that everyone and their brother has a real estate license. But there's a difference between having a license and really doing this stuff. There's a massive difference. And I would say the best aspect of it is, man, you can really make a good amount of money. I remember when I got back from Gainesville, I was going to school up in Gainesville, and I got back and I was looking at these different sales positions, and they had a really good salary, but I wanted something where I could, based on the amount of work that I did, I could it wouldn't be capped, right? And real estate, there is no cap. You'll look at some people on Palm Beach Island doing $100 million transactions. What do you think the commission is on that? The commission on that is 2.5%. Do the math.
Yeah.
That's a massive check right there. So that's what really, really appealed it to me. What kept me in real estate is the awesome clients that I have. I'm working with a couple people from the former president administration, the Trump administration, who have become really, really good friends. I'm going out to dinner with a client right after this, really good friends. And, we're not talking about forced friendships. They're really, really my friends.
Like genuine.
Yeah, genuine. It's so awesome to meet these different titans in their own industry and to see, how these people conduct themselves when they're dealing with an unrealistic seller. I have one client, man, I wish I would have asked him if I could name drop before I came here, because what a class act. I mean, and it's awesome to see how these different guys with 30 years of business experience, self-made with these massive companies that do huge revenue, and then, just to be full disclosure and fully honest, I'm honored, I'll go to dinner with some of these guys and I'm like, man, I'm honored to be sitting across the table with this guy. And that's, I don't want to be going in and clocking into a job where I'm like, man, I just looking at my watch, I can't wait to get home.
5 o'clock. Yeah.
I want to be, out with these titans of industry that are just absolutely, annihilating life and, just kind of soaking it up, learning from them and feeling honored to sit across from the table while I am.
We talk about this a lot. Sometimes you go out or you meet somebody and they look like they just fell off like a bridge or like fell out the window. You know what I mean? They look like total shit.
Never judge a book by its cover.
No, and then next thing you know, you say, do you know who that is or something? You see him again with a friend and they're like, yeah, the guy's worth $1 billion.
Yeah.
Like, what? It
Two guys I met like that, and
two.
One, I won't mention names, but one guy owns a medical supply thing, and he's worth, I think, close to $1 billion, and he literally has like a beard, long hair, and he wears just a T-shirt with like blue jeans.
Interesting.
And then the other guy has a house actually on Palm Beach. Won't mention his name either. Right near going out the inlet. Coach football with him with my kids. Ball buster. Text them all the time, joking around. Same thing. Jeans and a white T-shirt. Would never, ever in a million years guess.
Now, what do you think it is about like those two examples, some examples that we've met, then like, I mean, me or you, you know, or like that they're just not like, what is it with them that they're just not like that? They just don't give a shit.
Well, you know, I'm sure I haven't made it like they have made it, right? But I'm sure there comes look, I have clients, you know, I have one of these guys who there is no doubt whether he made it. You know, he is dominated. He's a titan of industry, and he still, everywhere he goes, he will pull up in a suit and he's driving a Bentley, unless he has his driver in a GMC Yukon Suburban. You know, it's one or the other. So he's still dressed to the nines. I think it's just your personality, but you know, there's some of these guys that they hit a certain point to where there's no longer any question whether they made it or not. Yeah. So now they no longer need to wear a suit. You know, they'll walk into any room and people know who they are. So it's, you know,
or maybe they don't want to be known anymore. Maybe
yeah,
they're tired of being
there's
known
that.
as, like, the
And
big
look,
shot.
there's also guys who just don't like suits and are genuinely uncomfortable in suits. I like a good suit, you know, I like a good watch. I like a good suit, and I'll wear them, but you know, it's not the most comfortable thing to be in.
Yeah.
Right.
I just want to get your opinion on this, and then we'll go over everything and let you get to your dinner. Pull up tab 5 because you're into the news. Remember all these balloons that were up there?
Oh yeah.
I don't
Spy
get
balloons from China.
Yeah, there's another one. This one, suspected Chinese spy balloon was able to transmit information back to Beijing. Like how does this go on? Like they're letting it, like, again, I always go back to, are they letting it happen? Like they're paying, you know, the upper guys to do, like, what is it with this? What's your opinion on this?
Yeah. So, man, like, you know, I don't have some cutting edge source that can tell us exactly what's going on, but I recall these things going up, and they were basically, they didn't know what they were. You know, I know that they did shoot one down, and a small time weather company took, you know, they came out and said, that's my balloon. You know, they took, you know, full responsibility for it. Who knows if that isn't a manufactured story?
But when sending information back to Beijing, I don't think it's a weather company just shooting, you know.
Yeah, so there were all these different balloons, and they were basically, I believe that they were, you know, conducting flights around it, basically inspecting them, saying, what is this? We don't want to shoot it down because what if it has nuclear fluid on it, or, you know, whatever that can affect the population below, affect the water, or whatever it is. So I think that they were just assessing the situation. I believe they shot it down off the coast of South Carolina, into the ocean. Man, did it take them too long. And then I believe it did come out that those were in fact Chinese balloons, correct?
Yep.
What do you think's behind it, Rob?
I go back to the squirrel. There's a squirrel. Look this way, squirrel.
Yeah.
Something else going on. Squirrel. Look this way.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, they put
You think it's just a distraction from,
Yeah, I mean,
what the Russian
whatever. I mean,
situation?
who knows? I mean, like, we had Dr. Epstein in here, and what you're seeing, they want you to see. We've said it a million times. So if they didn't want us to know about this, we would not know about it. They want us to see it for some reason. I don't know why, to distract from something
And more than
else.
Epstein, all those guys that are just like heavy into this, that every time you see something like this, like we just pulled it up because it came out today, you know, same day as Trump gets indicted or whatever. But there's always a big reason for this, for a distraction, for whatever it may be.
Right.
So it's never what meets the eye.
Right.
And we've had too many people tell us that are way smarter than us.
Yeah, that may be true, but you know, at the same time, I have no doubt that China has, you know, different ways of trying to collect information. You know, I believe that these were hovering over naval bases
Yep.
and different army bases. No doubt that they're trying to extract information from us. You know, the most concerning thing that I'm seeing is kind of this shuffling of a new world order that's kind of taking place between China and Russia and Iran, where they're kind of like, we don't need the United States anymore. Forget you. You know, Russia is a client state to China, meaning if China cuts ties with Russia, their economy collapses immediately. It's over. It's done. I mean, famine will ensue. It's done. But, you know, they're doing this whole media tour together. You know, I believe they're cutting cake together, basically.
They're
saying,
all aligning.
Look, we're united. We're boys, and we have nothing to do with the states.
So last thing,
Concerning.
when do you predict the crash of the real estate market or the pop?
Now.
Right now. You think
Now.
it's happening now?
Yeah, so we were climbing, think of it as a roller coaster. We're climbing. We have now plateaued, and now we're on the drop.
And what will we notice? Like, just guys that already have houses.
You're going to see right now, you're going to see a lot of houses get listed at delusional prices. They're going to attempt to get what they could get. And you're going to see really, really deep discounts, but you're not going to see it until it closes. That's kind of how you're not going to see it until the close price. And then all these houses that are actually selling and not just sitting on the market are going to start closing at way less than what they were listed at. And then people, instead of slowly ripping off the Band-Aid, they'll rip it off and say, if I don't want my house to sit on the market for 6 months, I'm going to list it at the actual realistic price. And then you're going to see that real dip. And that's happening right now.
What about foreclosures, though? Because all the people that got those checks, that put it in, they got the loan, they bought $1 million house that's really worth $400K. You think we're going to see a ton of foreclosures?
I think there's going to be, inevitably there's going to be a lot of people that are underwater with such high prices, people that bought at the peak. I don't think that there's going to be a massive amount, but yes, I do think that there's going to be a really, really considerable amount of foreclosures as well.
And I say it because the prices of everything else is going up.
Yeah,
so then you still have that $5,000 a month payment on the house that you really couldn't afford that you got before it went to 7%.
Yeah, everything's more expensive. They bought at the peak. Those SBA loans are running out, and real life is setting back in where your profit and loss sheet is starting to be the only thing that you're looking at, and not this government god that's just handing you a check. You're back to real life, and it's gonna happen.
And what's the best way for somebody to get a hold of you if they want to use your services?
Look, call my cell phone. You can inquire on my website. Anyway, I'll get back in touch with you.
We'll have all that in the description.
I just can't wait to see how you title this one, because I can see it now. It's like, man at sea survives after whatever, pulls boat in, and then you could have like single guy. I mean, this is gonna the titling of this is gonna be amazing.
Is this a weird podcast?
This is a good one. No, it was good.
Yeah,
I like it.
You got any more cool stories like almost dying?
I mean,
oh man, not really.
Yeah. No, man. We'll definitely have all that in there, and we'll have anything else you want to add, we can do it, buddy.
I'm good. Thanks so much for having me.
No,
guys.
thank you,
Tommy
man.
Gunn.
Yeah,
You're the man.
Yeah, you too.
It was a pleasure meeting you, man.
Pleasure
Honestly.
meeting you. I'll see you again soon.
All right.
So it's brought to you by Fiji. More than just water.
This is not just rock. It's ancient volcanic rock that filters tropical rain, giving it double the electrolytes and its signature soft, smooth taste. It's not just water. It's Fiji water.